Hello and welcome to a brand new business podcast series, Office English from BBC Learning English. I'm Pippa.
And I'm Phil. And in this series, we will be guiding you through the trickier areas of business language and discussing some useful words and phrases for you to use in the office or wherever you work.
Business language can be tricky, even for native speakers of English, and the workplace is changing all the time with new technology and more people working from home. So we're here to talk about some of the techniques and phrases that we use at work.
At BBC Learning English, we're all fluent English speakers working in a British cultural context. So that's the situation we have the most advice for. But we'll try to point out where things might be a bit different in different workplaces around the world.
This first episode is all about emails. We've already heard from BBC colleagues that not everyone agrees on how we should write emails. But what do you think, Phil? Should an email sound like a letter?
Probably not. Everything with email depends on the situation, depends on who you're writing to and why. But I think an email is usually a lot less formal than a letter.
Yes, I agree. I would say I'm quite informal in most of my emails. But as you say, it depends on who I'm emailing. So in this episode, we're going to look at how to address emails, some useful email phrases, and how to sign off, depending on who you're sending the email to.
Okay, so first off, the email greeting. What phrases are we looking at here, Pippa?
Okay, so the first phrase we could use to start an email would be to say, "Dear Phil." What do you think about that?
I do use dear. Sometimes. It's not the one I use most, but I do use it, and I'll tell you when I use it. I use it when I'm writing an email to someone I've not written to before, or someone who I'm a little bit scared of, or maybe someone who's very important, or they're just very serious. Or if someone wrote to me and they used dear, I'd look at what they've said and sort of mirror it. I'd do the same back. So I do use dear, but it's not the one I use most often because I think in an email it sounds a bit formal.
Yes, I agree. There's nothing wrong with saying "Dear Phil." Nobody would think that that was bad English. I use it sometimes if I had to write an email on behalf of a company. So, a more formal email that's not from me, but from the company that I represent. What I might use for a more personal email to a colleague or something is just to say hi or hello.
Yeah, and actually, this is the one that I use the most. I think 90% of my emails probably start with hi. Definitely with someone I know, I would use hi. If I'm not worried about who I'm writing to in any big way, then I would use hi. It's not formal, but in an email, it's not very informal either, I don't think.
Yes, and certainly in the UK, we're more and more informal at work. So emails sound more and more like text messages. Not completely, but saying hi or hello doesn't feel out of place. One thing that I like to say sometimes, if I'm not sure whether to be formal or informal, is to start my email with good morning or good afternoon. What do you think about that?
I think that's a really nice way to do it because it can sound kind of friendly, but it can also sound kind of formal. You can sort of see it in two different ways.
Yes, if you sort of said good morning to someone when you were speaking, that would sound quite formal. It makes me think of being at school and you would say sort of good morning, miss, or good morning, sir, to the teacher. What about emails where you don't know the name of the person, Phil? What would you do then?
Well, yes, we've got all these formula for using in letters, like to whom it may concern, or dear sir, or madam, but they often sound a bit cold and a bit unfriendly. It does depend on the situation. It will be different in different countries. It might be different in different industries. If you're a lawyer, it might be different. But I would probably use, if you use hi, you don't actually need to say who you're writing to. You can just say hi.
Yeah, that's really useful because when you say dear at the start of an email, you need to put the name of the person. You can't just say dear. I'm writing about. That doesn't make sense in English. So yeah, hi is really useful. Again, good morning, good afternoon work as well, because you don't need the name. You can also hide the fact that you don't know the name of the person. Sometimes people like you to know and have researched who you're messaging. Sometimes that's not possible. So just saying hi or hi there could work to be really friendly, but mask the fact that you don't know their name. Right, so we've started our email okay. Next, let's look at a couple of popular email phrases and when we might use them.
Okay, yes, so we've got this one here. I'm writing to inquire about. What do you think of that?
Well, that's kind of a formal way to state what your email is about. It's something you might write in a letter. We don't tend to use it in emails as much. I might say, if I was trying to be a bit friendlier, I'm wondering if you can help me with, instead of I'm writing to inquire about.
Yes, no, definitely. It's something that sounds very normal in a letter, but a bit strange in most emails, I think. Okay, we've got another one here. Please find attached.
Yes, this is one that you see a lot, and we might use please find attached in an email to say that we're sending a file or a link. So that's what it means. A more informal way of saying this would just be to say, here is the document you asked for, here is the report, or here's the link to the podcast that you wanted to listen to. That would be probably a more friendly way to write an email to a colleague or someone at work that you know well, rather than please find attached. But I think please find attached has a place in an email occasionally.
Yeah, again, we were talking about formal ones, maybe if you're representing a company or writing to people that you don't know. A bit of a guide for emails can be that emails are a lot more like the way we speak to someone, whereas formal letters are often a bit different to the way that you would talk to someone. And finally, how should we say goodbye at the end of the email? What are the options, Pippa?
Okay, so our first option would be to say something like yours sincerely or yours faithfully. What do you think of that, Phil?
Now, this is the thing you always get taught to put at the end of a formal letter. I remember at school being taught this, and I think it's probably still true for a formal letter, but I think it's a bit unusual on an email. Even quite a formal email, I think it's unusual to see this.
Yes. Something that people might use instead, even in quite a formal email, is to say something like kind regards, because it's quite formal, but it still sounds polite.
Yeah, I actually often just use regards a lot at the end of my email, and it's because it's in that sort of sweet spot of being a bit formal but a bit friendly, and it means I don't have to think too much about what I'm putting at the end of an email, because I'm never sure.
I usually will say all the best or best wishes, particularly if it's to somebody I don't know well, or it's the first time I've emailed someone, because it's quite formal. But it's good to switch up the options, especially if you're emailing back and forth a lot with somebody. You don't want to keep writing the same thing. I just find that feels a bit strange to keep saying all the best, especially when they reply quickly and then you reply. It's just seems like it has no meaning by that point.
Now, this might be a very English thing, because we do this a lot and often look for opportunities to do it. But if it makes sense to say thanks or many thanks at the end of the email, I will often do that.
Yes, or you could say thank you in advance. If you've asked for a favour in the email, you can end by saying thanks in advance, just to remind them that you are asking for something. Or if you're just sending a note round to remind someone of something, thanks can be useful as well. Sort of thanks for reading.
And I guess something similar is this phrase here, looking forward to hearing from you. And you're kind of suggesting that something is going to happen in the future, but it's not an impolite way of doing it. It's kind of a friendly way of saying you're expecting someone's reply and that you genuinely would like to hear from them.
Yes, I love that. It's one of my favourites, actually, looking forward to hearing from you. And I will say that often when I've sent an email to somebody to ask for something, I've not emailed them before and I would like them to reply, but I'm not sure that they will reply.